my God. Okay, so let me do the full intro so people know who you are.
Are they going to be seeing me? I didn't shower. I feel terrible.
Well, they're not going to be. They're not going to be smelling you.
We can't see you at all.
Our guest tonight is one of my favorite people. I've had him on pretty much every incarnation of this show we've had. He's a major TV writer. He was executive producer of Family Guy. He worked on American Dad, The Orville. He is currently president of the Writers Guild of America, and there's some scandal going on there, so we'll talk about that. But David, shame on me for not knowing this. I didn't realize you have a special talent. You're an expert. You're a Star Trek scholar, and you've written extensively on it. Please welcome David Goodman to the show. Hi, David.
I don't know how you missed that about Star Trek, but yes, I am. I'm an expert.
I have never, ever asked you about that after all this. How do I not know this about you?
I don't know. I don't think you were doing your reporting. Good reporting. It's your fault. It's not my fault.
That's a good point. Yeah. It's not for you to bring up. You're not supposed to go like, by the way, Cooper, hi, bigger thing about me that you need to know.
Forget Family Guy. I know everything about Star Trek.
Well, that's actually how I got my job at Family Guy. I was between me, this is back in like 1999, was between me and another writer, and the other writer was not a Star Trek fan, and Seth is a giant Star Trek fan, so that literally was the tipping point, I think, for Seth hiring me. I owe my career to that interest. So.
That's so interesting. Like it's such odd things that like connect people to each other. I've had that before too. Like I had a boss once that, you know, we were completely different generations, but yet he was a big Rugrats fan. And for some reason, like every morning I would wake up on Saturday morning, watch Rugrats, eat pancakes. And I walk into his office and it was like really awkward. He was just sort of like an awkward guy, but he had Rugrats things everywhere. And I was like, oh, let's talk Rugrats. And it was such a random thing, but he was like, I like you. You're a Rugrats girl.
That's there was I actually wrote a couple years ago for Paramount. I wrote the live action Rugrats movie.
Oh my God! Okay,
they haven't made it. And
okay,
and they've moved on to other writers. So it's not my project anymore. So
right. I'm heartbroken. So I thought, because I did not realize you were a Star Trek, because I was so interested in what was going on with the Writers Guild and Family Guy and all the other things. There's so much about you. You just can't get to it all. That's what it is.
I'm an onion. I'm an onion. Layers and layers, and then you're like, it's smelly and you're done. Why did I bother with that onion?
It's a good one. But I thought I have a short Star Trek quiz for you that's supposed to be the hardest Star Trek quiz ever.
Let's hear it.
Okay.
Let's go.
All right. Question number 1. Captain Sisko had a love of what sport?
Baseball.
So easy. I'm not even going to give you. I was going to give you like 4 choices. I'm not giving you any choices.
No, don't give him a choice. Just ask him a question.
Okay.
Right.
Question number 2. Who is Captain Sisko?
Captain Sisko is commander of Deep Space Nine.
Oh, okay. Because I'm not the expert that you are. What is a phrase that Borg often say?
Resistance is futile.
That's it. You're right.
I don't think this is a hard test at all.
Not for him.
Not for him. No.
It doesn't feel very hard. No.
Okay. What is the name?
Turn off your show at this point.
No, they're playing along.
You hear them moving the garbage cans outside my window. That's another thing I'm worried about.
It's usually what they do.
Okay. There's only a couple more questions here in this very, very difficult quiz.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What is the name of Captain Picard's Borg?
He is Locutus of Borg.
Wow, he is good.
Okay. I've got 2 more for you. When Kevin Riley was under the PSI 2000 virus, what Elvis song did he repeatedly sing?
Take Me Home Again, Kathleen.
I don't even think that's a song.
It is a song.
It is a song? Okay.
In a million years, I'm like, he's not going to get this one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's the last one. You probably know this because this is one of those like really interesting facts. Who starred as the captain in the pilot of Star Trek, the original series?
That was an actor named Jeffrey Hunter.
You do not disappoint, my friend. You do not disappoint.
I did not disappoint. Jeffrey Hunter is best known for his role in the John Wayne film The Searchers, which is a great movie, and I recommend your audience.
And see, that's why I said if you wanted to bring some Mean Girls trivia to throw back at me, I'm always open to that.
I only saw Mean Girls once. I loved it, but I don't remember it. So that's the other. I don't remember enough Scooby trivia.
So what you are to Star Trek, I am of Mean Girls, and I worked for years for Cosmo Girl and She Knows, writing Mean Girls quizzes.
Mm-hmm. Wow. All right.
So,
that's if I was to go look online for Mean Girls quizzes, they were written by you. Is that
yes? In fact, if you Google the hardest Mean Girl quiz for She Knows, that comes up, and that is still one that like BuzzFeed has used it and whatever, because they're really hard questions. It's for the true Mean Girls fan.
One question I have about Family Guy is how can it still be? Even the latest episode makes me laugh like I'm 10 years old. How can they keep that still going after all these seasons, still coming up with the funny gags?
What's
the funny
special
jokes?
Sauce? Yeah.
I think you're just an easy audience, Anthony. I don't think it's any, it's speaking truthfully, I don't work there anymore, but obviously I worked with most of the writers who were on that staff were writers who I worked with on that staff, and they're the meanest group of people who've ever existed. So that I think, I was trying to be funny, but you didn't laugh. So
because I was like,
I think
we're in radio, so we're like, let's dish.
They're really incredibly funny people. And so when you say what makes you laugh, it's what makes them laugh. In order for it to get on the air, they have to make each other laugh. It is a tough group of people to get to laugh. So if they come up with something that's funny to them, it's likely to be funny out in the world. That's not always the case, but it was often the case because it's a tough audience. It's the first audience for any joke is the Family Guy's writer's room. And if it doesn't make that room laugh, it doesn't get on the show. So that's.
But are you just being humble? Because I feel like you really made those characters so three-dimensional that we know them. I think part of it is also that because things are funny, but we also know them. Like there's certain things that are very Stewie things, for example.
Well, I think that, it really does start with creating something that Seth created. That Seth is. MacFarlane's a genius. It really annoys me. He's the, it's just how it is. I mean, he created this thing. It comes out of his, came out of his mind, came out of his experience. He has this sort of incredible sense of humor, and he created those things. But then he gathered a staff, and I was one of them, and we added to it, and it keeps going. And
no, you were executive producer. That's a whole other level. That's not just staff.
Yeah, well, again, I'm not going to take credit for this thing that Seth created, but I definitely helped him. I definitely worked with him. We collaborated. I mean, and I really enjoyed working there, and I learned a lot from him, and he says he learned a lot from me, so that's good. But no, we were collaborators for the 6 or 7 years that I ran the show with him. We did some great television.
And what'd you do on the show that you're like, that was me, I did that?
To me, the thing that I never look, there probably are some individual jokes that I liked that I came up with. I think to me, some of the stories that we came up with, some of the episodes that we did, the episode that I wrote, Stewie Kills Lois, which was our 100th episode, I'm very proud of.
Farewell, Brian, I'm off to sea. An hour from now, I'll be surrounded by seamen. Sperm whales and seamen. Ooh, a swallow.
Stewie, Peter and Lois aren't taking you with them. They've already boarded.
Very proud of that one.
That was my...
So like at the Seder table, your mother's there, and she's like, "I'm so proud of my son. He came up with Stewie kills Lois."
She never said she was proud of me. I had my first viral tweet was about my late mother. That just, but anyway, you go look.
What was it? What was it? What'd you say? What'd you tweet?
Well, I was registering for COVID vaccine, which I encourage everybody to do, and it said put in your occupation. And I wasn't really thinking that they were looking to see if I was a teacher or first responder or something like that. So I put it in writer, and the website came back and says, please enter a valid occupation. And so my tweet, which went viral, my tweet was, I guess the COVID vaccine website is being run by my dead mother.
Nice.
I think I retweeted that like 20 times. That was my favorite thing ever. I'm glad you told it. That's just crazy. But you know what? I feel like that's my philosophy. You know, people are like, I'm like you, where I've done a lot of things. I mean, not at your level, obviously, but a lot of stuff. I've published a bunch of books. I've done whatever I've done. But my people like how I say disapproving mother. I feel like disapproving mother is the biggest motivator in the world.
It's not. I don't know that my mother ever said to me, I think that trying to make my mother laugh was probably something that was always his goal, and she never said I was funny. The most she ever said was, "Oh, that was cute," which is like death.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So yes, I think that you're striving. You're striving for some kind of approval or something that you never get, but that you seek from strangers.
Right. I think that's what successful people have in common. I love that about you, actually.
So what are you working on now?
Well, we're finishing shooting. We had to shut down the Orville for COVID, so we're back shooting the rest of our third season, and that'll be finished sometime this summer. And then I'm out trying to sell other projects, which is interesting in the age of COVID, in that you're doing it always by Zoom.
Right.
But seems to be a lot of interest in animation at all these streaming platforms, and so I'm hopeful that there will be something new. But that's part of the business, is just getting out and hustling.
Right, of course. And did I read? So explain to everybody about the Writers Guild, the whole thing that went on.
You sure you want to do that?
Give me like an encapsulated. I'm fascinated by it. Just give me like an encapsulated version, because in this whole situation, you ended up firing your agents. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, you did. So,
okay.
So basically it's ended, but for the last about 2 years, the Writers Guild has been in a conflict with the agencies who represent us, and to try to make it as simple as possible. Basically, the agencies were making money off of the fact that they were representing writers, and they were making excessive amounts of money through something called a packaging fee. And this is a thing that has been around for a number of years, decades, in fact. And the agencies would get money directly from the studios for representing a writer. And sometimes they were making actually more money off the writer's work than the writer was. And which was just fascinating, that this system just existed.
Right.
It ended up being this sort of cost of doing businesses with the studios. The studios would just agree to it, and there was sort of a fixed price for this thing. And if you created a show like Friends or Everybody Loves Raymond, or some big show, ER, whatever, your agent. These agencies were making millions and millions and millions of dollars off of it, and they hadn't necessarily done any work to even sell the show, or to, it had this term packaging fee because it was this idea that they were packaging the writer with an actor or director, but often they weren't even doing that. Most of the time they weren't. They were just getting all this money, and then there was money coming out of the budget of the show that was going to the agencies. So through this, we wanted an end to that. And we said to the agencies, you have to end this. They initially said no. And we said, we will fire you if you don't agree to this. We did. And after 2 years, every agency has essentially accepted this. And we are now moving back forward with them. They're our partners again. There may be hard feelings from some of them, but for the most part, writers are back with their agents. Agencies are back in business with writers, and we're moving on. But it was a big fight.
Wow.
And it was a big victory for them.
I'm so happy you guys won it. And I mean, shame on them for having harsh feelings because they were literally stealing from you. They weren't doing the writing. All they did was basically make an introduction, and then you did all the work.
I think that for most agents, there are no hard feelings. They're just happy to have the writer clients back there. I'm saying there may be some hard feelings. I don't know. But no, they most of the agents that I've been in touch with, they just wanted to be back with their writer clients. There were just a few agents at the top of these agencies who didn't want to give up this money, but they did. And because they recognized that their business is around writers. So.
But instead of stopping the practice, did they also write you guys a big check and be like, here's all the money we stole from you?
I guarantee that's a no.
We did not get any big checks from
Oh.
But everybody's fine.
Okay, everyone's fine. Okay, that's good. Well, you're living. You're living in a tiny little place with the trash right outside. What do you live by a dump? I'm worried. I'm concerned. That's not fair. Your agent is probably up in Beverly Hills.
So, do you still make money off of syndication of Family Guy?
Yes. Yeah. There's through the Writers Guild, we have what's called a residual, and if you've written a script for Family Guy, you and that episode continues to air somewhere, you will get money for it.
Yeah, because there's like 15 channels that play Family Guy at my house. Yeah,
Family Guy's a good credit to get residuals off of, absolutely.
And not just this country, because this again, hardly the same thing, but I was the expert on the Tyra show. I'll get a check out of nowhere because Tyra was running in like Afghanistan or something bizarre like that.
And there's funny, I met her once, and I guess her mother was a huge Family Guy fan, and she said she found out I wrote for Family Guy, and we did this bit. It was off of that bit where she had with that clip where she yells at the contestant on
and then she turns into like a velociraptor. Yeah,
that was the bit. That was the bit on Twitter. And so she tells me the story. Yeah, my mom's a big fan. She calls me one day and she says, Tyra, you're a dinosaur on Family Guy.
I finally made it.
That's right. Oh my God, that's awesome.
She seemed to have a good sense of humor. But I don't know if she did or not, but she seemed to.
How many jokes and episodes laid on the floor because it wouldn't pass the censor?
But
on all the shows, like every show you work on.
Right.
It's different for different shows. I mean, I think that, when you get to Family Guy, the package is clearly labeled. That like the Fox network wants Family Guy to be Family Guy. It wants it to be edgy. It wants it to push the envelope. That's why people watch.
Right.
So there's always sort of a conversation with the censors and a drawing of the line, and it's always this sort of conversation of trying to get stuff in that maybe shouldn't be on television. So it's but there are probably some. I'm not thinking of that. I'm blanking on them right now, but there probably are a lot of really great jokes that we couldn't get on the air for one reason or another. Often the reason we can't do it is because of rights issues. Like we did this whole Monopoly gag episode, and we couldn't do it because the Monopoly people
really
would have sued us. So.
That's interesting because they wouldn't feel like Monopoly. Who plays board games anymore? They should be like, thank God, somebody knows who we are.
I don't know.
Yeah, you can get past George Lucas.
Well, Lucas. I mean, George Lucas was such a gift. They would when we were doing those Star Wars things. We started with doing those gags, and he said yes to anything except if it was sexual. there was anything, they said, and then finally said, well, we're doing all these gags. Why don't we just do episodes? And then we did the first Star Wars episode, and it was this most heartbreaking thing for me was we went up to Lucasfilm to screen the episode for everybody who worked at Lucasfilm. And then the day that George Lucas was going to watch it with us, it was Yom Kippur, so I had to go back. So I didn't get to listen. My two religions were fighting.
You're like, I'm Jewish. Heavy on the ish today.
But he was such a supporter of it. It's. I think it's different now that Disney owns it. I don't know that they're doing too many Star Wars gags over there now, but George Lucas was a gift to us.
Yeah, those episodes were brilliant.
Yeah, they were brilliant. They're iconic. I mean, even people that didn't know much about Family Guy at least know those episodes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was against doing the first one.
Really?
You were?
Yeah. I thought, well, Star Wars parody. What are we doing? And Seth's like, no, we're doing it. And then I was completely wrong.
You were wrong.
And then it was like a half an hour. We were going to do a normal episode length. And Alex Sulkin, who wrote the first script, he wrote it long. He says, can we just make this an hour? It's like, no, we're not making it an hour. And Seth said, no, let's make it an hour. I said, we made it an hour. I was wrong. There too. But then I co-wrote the third one. So I was.
Okay. It took them that long to get you on board.
No, I was always on board.
Okay.
I was just like, I don't think this is a good idea. And I was wrong. Sometimes you're wrong.
Right. You can admit it.
Brian as Wookiee. Fine. Now, let me ask you a question. Now, this all happened after you left, so I'm really curious what you think. What about like the fact that they now are that they've replaced the Cleveland voice with somebody who's black? Did that occur to you while you were there? That we got a white guy playing this black guy that might be an issue later on.
Interestingly, no. I mean, I think that's part of what's happening in the business, and it's a good thing. I mean, at the core of it's a good thing is that it's an awakening of people, for about their own biases, about their own maybe unrecognized bigotries. And Mike Henry created that character, so there really wasn't any kind of thought of like he created it. It's like, of course he's going to do it. And then you start to see as time goes on, maybe with blinders on. Maybe we're not seeing really what that we're doing something that is discriminatory, that is keeping somebody from doing a role that they should be doing. And so to me, I mean, I applaud how Mike handled it. I applaud how the Seth and the staff handled it. It's tough. It was a tough situation, I think, because again, Mike created a character that a lot of people liked.
Right.
But I think it was a good thing that people's minds are opening and that you're understanding your unconscious bias. And
right. It's a very good point.
You got to make an extra effort. As a white person, you got to make an extra effort because we have had it a little easier. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm Jewish, so we didn't have it fully easier. But
me too. Jewish and a woman, so like not as easy as but still white, so easy. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. It's not, no one, and I recognize, the advantages that I've had as a writer, being white and Jewish in the business. And it's important to make that extra effort, I think.
Right.
You had some really good Jewish jokes, though, in Family Guy.
Well, there was one joke that I was against. I didn't come up with it, but I was against it. But we put it in, which was this horribly offensive joke, which I will tell you now. Which was,
please do.
This writer came up with this gag of, a Jewish guy at the train at a train platform, London $20, Auschwitz $10. And I was like, this is horrible. This is offensive. but we put it in for a table read. We put it in for a table read, and nobody laughed. So it's like, you didn't do it. So that to me is like, okay, good.
Right.
We don't have to do it because you have to sometimes cross the line to figure out where the line is.
Yes, that's a great point.
But you okayed the car as a Jew flattening machine.
This is my Jew flattening machine. It'll flatten any Jew. Simply climb behind the wheel, drive it towards a Jew, and flatten him.
Could you also use it just to drive from place to place and stuff?
It's a Jew flattening machine. It's not what it's designed for.
But you could use it that way.
You could also use the Mona Lisa as a placemat.
I wasn't there for that.
See, okay, there you go. So he wasn't the EP then, so it's okay.
I was not. I did not. Yes.
Now, first of all, how old were you when you realized you were funny?
Well, that's a good. I don't know that you ever want to say that you're funny.
Really?
As soon as somebody says,
We never learned that, have we, Cooper?
No. We're like, we're funny.
We're freaking hilarious.
You really do want someone else to say that. Because as soon as you say it, then you're probably not funny.
I'm going to grow old and die before somebody says that.
I think I realized that I wanted to be funny in elementary school but I would say things that people would laugh at and they thought I was being funny. And that's half of my career. Half of my career as a writer has been accidentally being funny, but not saying, "Oh, I wasn't being funny," just sort of accepting the laugh. And sort of learning from that, but it was more a desire to want to be funny, to want to try to be funny. That's probably, and that goes back to 4th or 5th grade where I said something that everybody laughed at, and I was being completely serious.
Right.
and that still happens.
David, thank you so much for joining us, and we're really excited for the 3rd season of the Orville. And you're fascinating, and I love talking to you. And sorry I didn't know about the Star Trek thing, but I'll come with better questions. I'll come with better questions next time.
Now you know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.